We begin book number 2, as it's called, Shayichud Be'amunah, the gate of unity and faith. Chinuch Katan. So we begin with the introduction to this book. Likutei Amarim Chelik Sheni Anikra B'Shem Chinuch Katan. Likutei Amarim means a compilation of teachings, part 2, entitled, in the introduction is entitled Chinuch Katan, Education of the Child. It's compiled from sacred books and from teachers of heavenly saintliness whose souls are in Eden, who've passed away. Referring to books like teachers, books, the Maharal, the Shalah, and teachers like the Baal Shem Tov and the Judaism.Chabad. And it's based on the first paragraph of the recitation of the Shema. Right? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So, the Alter Rebbe begins the introduction with a quote from Mishlei, Proverbs. Educate your child according to his way. So even when he grows old, he will not depart from it. So the Alter Rebbe asks that according to this way, meaning you're teaching a child according to their way, meaning it's not the perfect truth. It's really just a path for a child to follow. Therefore, what's the merit that when he grows old, that he should not depart from it? Maybe you should depart from it, since it's not the perfect truth. It's a child's way. So do depart from it. Why are we saying that? You're not going to depart from it. So it's well known, as we've learned, that awe and love are the roots and foundations for divine service. Awe is the root of constraining yourself, holding yourself back from refraining to do evil, right? Not to transgress, one of the prohibitions of the Torah. Love is the root and the foundation of what motivates us to do good, to observe the positive commandments that the Torah teaches us and our sages. Right? And that's something that we explained at great length in chapters 4 and 41 in the first part of Tanya. So, concerning the love of God, it says that which I command you to do, to love God. You need to understand, what does it mean to do? To do love. How do you do love? Love is an emotion, it's a feeling. How do you do it? We need to understand that. So the explanation is as follows. There's 2 types of love. There's a natural yearning and love of the soul that it has for God Almighty, right? That it's truly a part of God above, and therefore it just wants to reveal its connection, right? And when the rational soul understands this and prevails over the agenda of the body and subdues and subjugates it, right? So now the godly soul comes to the fore, and not the rational soul appreciates the goodness of God. And that will create a flare, a blaze, a flame that ascends on its own accord. That you're going to rejoice and delight in God, in a wondrous bliss. This wondrous bliss to delight in God is not something that everybody merits, only the righteous do. Avarab, as it's called, a magnanimous love. That's a rejoice only that certain people are privileged. Very few people are privileged to attain this state. In other words, they refine the grossness of their physical reality, their body, through their Torah study and mitzvahs, that they merit the lofty level of neshama, of the soul, to be revealed, which is superior than the ruach level and the nefesh level of the soul. So this is something, again, that's not attained by very few, to be able to delight in God. Something that in the first part of Tanya that we went to great length. That's one kind of love. A second kind of love is something that all of us are capable of achieving. When we meditate on the things that can arouse the love of God in our hearts, we meditate on how God is our very life, something that we learned in chapter 44. Right? You are my soul. I desire you. You're my very life, God, and therefore I want to connect to you. Or you meditate upon what we learned in chapters 46 through 49, how God's greatness is a king that, and how he fills the world, encompasses the world, and out of a wondrous love for us, for the Jewish people collectively, and that he came down to Egypt, to the lowness of the world, right? And of Sitra Achar, where the negative forces are very powerful, so much so that we were enslaved. And what did he do? He took us out of that, the dunghill, if you recall the metaphor, and he brought us into his inner chamber. The king himself took us out and brought us to his inner chamber, where we have a loving relationship, a union, a oneness, bound to him more than anything else, more than anyone else. An infinite, boundless greatness and love. So when God does that for us, so we reflect back, as the metaphor, right? As water reflects the face, so does the heart reflect a man to man. The reciprocal love that we, again, in chapters 46 through 49 that we spoke about, that brings even someone with a heart of stone, that they will have a love towards God when you recognize what he has done for us and we want to reciprocate back. So this kind of love that we're talking about, whether God is my very soul, whether he's in my very life, or that I'm reciprocating, right? Moses implanted in our hearts that we can have this kind of love. The first kind of love, that is delighting in God, we don't have the merit for that unless you're righteous. But this, a love that's produced in the heart through understanding, through a meditation, through appreciation of our relationship with God, that will inspire us. And this is what it means, I command you this day that it shall be upon your heart. That through meditation you can come to love God. In other words, this is the do, what it means to do in order to love. What are you doing? Love is a feeling. Meditate upon God. Understand how he's your very life, how you reciprocate to him for what he has done for you. And therefore, when you think about that, it's upon your heart, then it'll bring you to a love that will be generated through that understanding, through that awareness, through one's intellect. Now, it will not bring you to a fiery flame, of the first kind of love, that is that of the righteous, but it will bring you to a love to God that you will want to do for him. So this, in conclusion of the Chinuch Katan, of the introduction to the second part of Tanya, is that, well, there is the adult love and the child's love. The adult love is like the righteous person's love. The child's love is the love that we're all capable of. Meaning to have an awareness of God and to have a love that you want to reciprocate and to do for God. that you can do for God. Meditate. It brings you to a love that brings you to do something for Him. So that is the child's love, meaning it's the first level love. So it says about the righteous that they may fall 7 times and yet rise again. What does it mean they fall? It doesn't mean sin. It means failing. They're human. So they can come up short. How are they coming up short? In their journey, in their growth, there are moments that they have what's called a falling. And it's not a falling like we have, that we fail in something. It's a falling to, it's like going up the rung of the ladder. Sometimes you need to take the next step up. You're sort of going down a bit in order to push yourself up. And that going down, in that moment of going down, the righteous are losing are not losing, but they don't have the delight in God, the first kind of love at that moment. They have to go back to the love of their youth, the child's love, meaning an intellectually motivated one, that they understand the greatness of God, the relationship that they have with God, God's relationship with the world. And they're going back to the love that we can accomplish, that we can have in our lives. They go back to that before they ascend to the next greater level. So it's not, again, anything wrong or sinful that they did, because righteous don't do sin, right? What it means is, again, is that they are moving to the next lofty level, and there's sort of like a moment of coming down in order to get the energy to drive up even higher. As they said, like, one step back to go 2 steps forward. That kind of idea. And therefore what that means is that they are introducing that former love in order to give them the momentum to go to even a higher level. And that's what it means, educate the child according to his way. What's his way? Well, a love that we can, this is not child stuff, but the way of the human being is to use your mind and to appreciate and to understand and have awareness, and through that have a connection to God. So that's the child's way. The righteous, far beyond that kind of love. And therefore, educate the child according to his way, that when he will grow old means over here, grow into an older love, a mature love, the righteous love, that they will not forget the former love, because the former love they still need to incorporate in their divine service. That concludes the introduction to Tanya. Chinuch Cotton, the second part of Tanya, Shar Yuchad Ve'emunah,